Hi, I am Andy Lucchesi, and I'm really happy to be here today with you in AI in Action Tools, Stories, and Innovations Shaping K20 in Education's conference. Today, my topic for you will be AI driven curriculum, engaging diverse minds through tailored learning experiences. Before we start, I would like to briefly introduce myself. I have been an educator for with an experience of over 15 years, and I started integrating artificial intelligence in my classes only in 2023. But my experience started in 2022 when ChatGPT was released in the market. I started very discreetly with a couple of courses in Coursera, and suddenly I decided that I needed to take a step further, and I enrolled on my first master's degree for content creators that don't have a background in tech. And then subsequently, my second micromasters was in automation. Recently, my latest achievements is Kira, which is a chatbot that I have specifically designed to enhance our students' critical thinking and problem solving skills. I am actively on Instagram and TikTok, and you can find me under the handle of Andy's Everyday English. And I am also working on teacher trainings, more specifically, those teachers that are just starting their adventure with artificial intelligence and really want to know how to work with artificial intelligence in the classroom ethically and responsibly. Now, before even thinking and working with artificial intelligence in the classroom and planning and creating anything with AI, we need to work on our AI literacy. Why AI literacy and its importance? When we're talking about AI literacy, we need to invite into the conversation not just educators and students, but also parents and guardians, schools, districts, the school itself, and anybody that is involved in the learning process. Why this is so mandatory and so important? For us educators and anybody that is involved in the uh, parenting role or the guide role, it looks like for us teaching users to understand how AI can become over the overuse of AI can become addictive. How we can teach our students to detect deep fakes and teach them the real quality of how good content looks like. AI literacy for us educators looks like creating correct frameworks for us to integrate artificial intelligence in our practices. As for our students, for example, it looks like cognitive offload, it looks like fostering personalized learning experiences, it looks like helping our student build their confidence in their learning and their abilities. And I could mention super long list. But in the end, what we want is that our students become free thinkers and that they can make their own educated ideas. When I am crafting my lesson plans and my activities, it will always be human centered with an approach with AI. It will always be in its core to reaffirm critical thinking and problem solving skills. The main idea about developing critical thinking in the classroom with our students is because we need to help our students with this boom of AI, how to build critical thinking processes that can integrate artificial intelligence, but also reminding them that the original idea comes from the human. We have to help them cultivate their curious mindset, as well as helping them understand how to break down and analyze contexts that are highly complex and that they don't have to over rely on artificial intelligence to come up with valid ideas and valuable content. We also need to redefine our the idea that we have of creativity. Basically, because with artificial intelligence, we have not only to understand creativity from the perspective of using Gen AI, which is generative artificial intelligence, but where is our role as humans in that mix? By encouraging this self reflection, we are helping our students to become ethical users of these tools. In the end, it shouldn't be about learning only about the tools and what they can do for us, but also what it's behind, and focus more on the science part and understanding where these answers and outcomes come from rather than just magic and just ticking the boxes of I have done my homework or I have delivered my lesson plans for my school. So, how can AI foster creativity among the different types of creative thinkers? I would strongly invite you to visit Bloom's taxonomy's chart, where Oregon State University revisited it. And I think that it's really interesting the approach where they specifically point out the analytical part and the memory part of the AI capabilities and our distinctive human skills. And by understanding this, it will become a lot easier to present assessments and create them. Because, for example, here is a proposal by Leon Furzy, which I also strongly recommend you guys to visit, where we can understand in which part of the scale we are right now when it comes to utilizing artificial intelligence in the classroom. Right now, I am on stage 3, and most of the activities that we're going to work on today are stage 3. What does it mean? It means that AI, it's going to be an ally. It's going to collaborate with our students in order to create a learning experience, meaning that it's going to do what it does best, which is drafting text, for example, or helping our students to draft texts or to tailor something that they have already done. So let's start with our inspirational thinkers. We can easily recognize our inspirational thinkers because they are those spontaneous students that are quick, that they are suddenly inspired from nowhere with the most beautiful ideas and with fresh perspectives. For them, here is an activity that I would like to propose to you to do in the classroom. That it's from pictures to poems. Basically, the idea is to reinforce writing ability, especially structures that we have been practicing in the classroom, and where our students will work aside with ChatGPT or with Claude. This activity can be easily adapted for grades 10, 11, 12, and of course, high education. Mainly, the idea is also to explore our students' capability to bring from abstract concepts into developing writing in a creative way. Our prompt reads like this: write a short story poem, personal reflection in English inspired by the picture of, insert the picture, I have just uploaded. You can ask questions to refine the writing further. I also invite you to do this third stage, which is further task development in each one of the activities that I will present. Basically, because here it's where the reinforcement part will happen, and it's not related to artificial intelligence in most of the cases, but just students' production. And in our next slide, I will show you how this activity looks like in action. Okay, so here is a visual example of the activity we were talking previously in our presentation about inspirational thinkers. In this particular case, the image that I chose was the image of my cat. If for some of you still feel that that is too personal, you can just keep on neutral object. Here is the prompt. As you can see, in this case, I have the word story, poem, or personal reflection. I'm going to go for poem, but whatever it is that we have been developing in the classroom is the ideal structure to be used for this activity. In this particular case, I would go with poem. And I am going to finalize and add the word cat. So the prompt reads like this: write a short poem in English inspired by the picture of my cat I have just uploaded. You can ask questions to refine the writing further. Now, the idea here is also to develop in the small groups of 3, maybe 4 kids in the classroom, or this can perfectly well be adapted for higher education. The idea here is to explore different aspects of the poems, my original poem as the student, and then ChatGPT's poem, in order to compare and see not which one is better, like which are the different qualities and aspects that my poem has versus ChatGPT's. What is the vocabulary that ChatGPT's chose based on my very simple prompt? I can also ask my students to keep on crafting it until they find something that suits what they like. But I would keep it with the first answer that ChatGPT throw us, basically because the idea is to then, as I said, keep the conversation going or the debate going, and add the original poem. So I would add my original poem and ask ChatGPT to compare and provide my answer in a table. I usually like, when I work with my students, I like ChatGPT to provide answers in tables because it's a lot easier for the student and then for us, the teacher, to explain the answer. So in this particular case, since we were talking about poetry, one of the things that I like about this answer is that it's giving us like aspects to keep on consideration. So there you have it. Here is ChatGPT's answer that can keep the conversation going. Then, for example, a further activity that they can do as a group, still in the classroom, if time allows it, it's to maybe blend their original poem with ChatGPT's, or if that is something that we don't want to do, we can just ask students to work on maybe a slam poetry competition using certain parts of their original poem with ChatGPT's poem, or if they have decided to go with a reflection instead of a poem, they can just keep on having a conversation with ChatGPT or a discussion with the group. So I hope that you have found this useful and that you could implement it easily in your class. When it comes to our lateral thinkers, our very much needed lateral thinkers, they tackle challenges in unconventional methods and they're always looking out for solutions. For them, I have crafted a class objective where, for example, they have to invent a new word. For this one, we do not have a tutorial because it would follow the same uses that we practiced in the previous slide, which is going to ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, and develop it naturally with a prompt. The idea of this activity is to develop debate and conversation when it comes to new social aspects such as language and the use that we currently give it. For instance, the further discussion that they would have will be, where does Gen Alpha's vocabulary come from? You can even use it as a icebreaker or at the end of the activity based on the students' answers and the large language model's answers. Let's continue. As for our systemic thinkers, Our systemic thinkers are those organized thinkers that they need structure. So for these kind of students, the class objective here is to work on another social aspects and what if situations. So for this one, we do have a tutorial where we're going to previously use ChatGPT and Claude, but first we're going to work with a new tool that I'm going to present briefly. As established in the presentation, systemic thinkers excel at breaking down concepts that are a little bit complex, and they work really well when they are allowed to develop their thinking through logical frameworks. They are methodical and they focus on productivity. So I thought that it would be a great idea to introduce to you Napkin AI. Napkin AI is an app that creates documents where you can have text into visual content, specifically graphics. Because in our activity that I was talking before on the slide, I mentioned that we were going to work on what if situations. And in our previous tutorial, we used ChatGPT. Here, we're going to use Claude. The prompt is quite simple. Here is the what if situation. What if social media platforms were banned? How would society, politics, and relationships evolve? Craft 3 scenarios with 3 what if situations. So here, by using Claude, the free version, by the way, I am allowing my students to work with another large language model besides ChatGPT, so they can also sometimes compare the results that we have from one large language model to another. I would invite them to take the text and dissect it, try to edit it themselves, and once that we have arrived to an outcome that is acceptable for the standards of the class, I would go ahead and go back to Napkin. As you can see here, we have 2 possibilities. Either we can draft with AI, that we can, with a simple one-liner prompt, we can create our own draft, but it is made and generated by AI. But since for this activity, we already have a plan, we have already a structure that we have pre-developed, we're going to use a blank napkin. So as you can see, this is a simple document where we're going to paste the outcome that we were working on before. With Napkin and with this document, we can also add comments as we go. And once that the document is done, we are able to share it with a link, or we can simply download it. All right, so what is it that Napkin does that it's so interesting? Well, here it goes. When I have some specific text that it would be better with a graph, it will automatically create it for me without me having to use, for example, different apps out there, like maybe Canva, and because those that have worked with Canva knows that yes, you have a template, but you have to go ahead and create each one of the parts. With Napkin, you already have done the most difficult part, which is the research, the writing, the analysis, whatever it is that you have been doing in the classroom. And it will generate with the information the graphs. So you can just go ahead and choose one. I'm going to choose this one over here. It gives us different possibilities. Okay, as you can see, I'm going to choose this one. Okay. And once that it's there on the document, I can also edit it as I please. Start editing. I can change the colors, the text, and so on. And I can do it with each one of the parts that I consider needs me, the teacher or the student, consider needs to be detailed in a graph. Now that it's established in the document, I can go through all the parts that I think that it requires a graph. I can do it through all the document or just in the specific parts that I believe needs one. And once that my document it's done, but I have realized that maybe I could have added more information and I would like to keep on working on the document, I can keep on adding more information as I did before. I simply would cut and paste here the information and create the graph as I go. So voila, this is napkin. I hope that you have found this useful and that you could easily implement in your classroom. And here comes our divergent thinkers. Our divergent thinkers are the ones that thrive with storytelling as well, but also mind mapping. And usually because they are looking for different perspectives while creating multiple ideas. For our divergent thinkers, I have thought about designing a new product where mind mapping and brainstorming happens at the beginning of the stage. So in this particular case, of course, that it can be always adapted to our younger students as well as for high education. And with a one liner prompt, that's what we're going to work on today. Of course, here in the further task development, I would suggest just because we are creating a product to even expand it with other tools such as Leonardo AI for free and ChatGPT in case that we want to bring to life in a further project our ideas. So here we go. Divergent thinkers, as we established in the slides, they do very well what is brainstorming. But what about if we could help them organize those ideas? In this particular case, I bring you ideamap.ai, which is a tool that allow us brainstorm and mind map in a much more organized way. For example, I'm just going to paste the one-liner prompt that we've got from the slide, which is build a product for an eco-friendly shoe startup. Here are some proposals of which specifically we want to focus on. But if we are just starting and we don't have much of an idea, it can actually do this for us as well. So let's click this one, like when we have no idea, we just have like an initial thought, and here it's how it would look like. It will break up the different possibilities for us to develop and discard if that's not the road that we want to go on. So as you can see, we've got a zoom control where we're going to be able to maximize. And as you can see, each one of the bubbles are, we're able to edit each one of them. For example, more in the sense of editing the idea, editing, adding to notes, sharing the idea, for example, with our teacher, with our classmates. But let's go, for example, here. In this case, developing the idea of sustainable fabrics, for instance, here we go. And imagine that, well, I don't like this one. Let's expand it. Okay, expand the idea. What do you want? Do you want it to make it like into a prompt? Do you want to make a much more deeper idea? So here we go. We're generating it. So we start a conversation with it. It generates the idea for us to help us unblock ourselves if that was the case. And for example, here about environmental impact, same thing. Imagine here that you want to attach a document because you have already been doing some research about it. You attach it and then you can, edit the idea because it will analyze it for you as well, and so on and so forth. So here is Idea Map for you. I hope that you and your students find it useful as much as I have. Divergent thinkers. Our convergent thinkers are as important as our divergent thinkers because if divergent thinkers are the ones that explore different possibilities, convergent thinkers are the ones that, with their logical reasoning, brings everything into order. So, in a very similar way, I would craft and work with the previous tool that I have presented, but in this case, by finding a solution of maybe a product, if I was working on the previous one, or in this case, for example, analyzing a situation that it's maybe a social situation like it reads in the prompt. I would invite educators to go through the further task development, basically because it opens and focuses on debate. Last but not least, let's work on our aesthetical thinkers. The aesthetic thinker is the artistic one, the one that we have to really think outside of the box and make a bigger effort. And in this case, I have prepared a video and a tutorial that will explain the class objective that is bringing poetry and imagery into music. Let's check out how it looks like. As established for our aesthetic thinkers, we really have to think out of the box because when they thrive is when they can be their most creative and they can materialize their ideas. So here is Suno. Suno is an app that can create music just by simple prompting. Of course, there are probably other apps that you have tried out, maybe in Canva. Also, the free version has it, or Use Song, that also the free version, it's pretty decent. But my favorite so far is Suno, especially because it has a large community of other creators that they have their prompts open for us to revise and maybe take some ideas from there. So with no further ado, here we go. My advice for you is to have your own account open. As you guys can see here, I opened mine. So once that you open your account, the idea is for you to either build your lyrics with your students previously, or with your students without the use of ChatGPT, or in this case, go to ChatGPT and for example, in this case, there was already a GPT that created lyrics in the style that Suno creates it. I wanted to create a catchy and simple lyrics with Afrobeat, reggaeton, because that's what the style my teenagers are into right now. But this can also be easily applicable for higher education and whatever genre they're into these days. So there you go. We arrive here, we go to create, and once that we click on create, this interface, it's where we're going to start building our song. So here we've got the song description, and what it can be song description in case that we want to go instrumental, but since we're going to introduce the lyrics, we just go ahead and drop the lyrics. Over here, in case that we don't know what is it exactly that we want to do, which I don't recommend doing that when we are with our students, but if we are just experimenting ourselves, we will have here a couple of ideas in case of prompting, in case that we don't know how is it that we want to prompt Suno. My advice is the simpler the prompt, the better. We've got to be quite specific in the keywords that we want to introduce in the box, though. And then here I proceed to paste the lyrics. There you go. We introduce the style. In this case, we decided to make it Afrobeat reggaeton dance with a female voice. We make sure that we're in the latest version. And then we choose a title, if that's the title that you want, and click create. It would always going to throw a couple of versions, and here it is down. So let's see how the other one goes. So same lyrics, but maybe with a different beat. Friday night, we're feeling right. Hit the streets, we're shining bright. Dance. Now, of course, for most of us, it might not be the best result in terms of quality or the music, but it's a really fun, engaging activity that can get all our students involved in, for example, if we are in a history class, inspired by maybe a time period, we can ask them to create lyrics and then we can throw it into Suno with a specific style, music style, and see the outcome. We are in English class, we can create a poem and then transform it into lyrics and throw it into Suno and then create music. Of course, that once that we have created our songs, Further activities that I would recommend doing with our students is that maybe we can even create our own playlist that it was created by the students, and then it can be even, by the end of the year, it could be a great gift for the parents, for example. There are many things and many ideas that can come out of this type of activities. I'm going to show you another version that I have also created in class with other students that they are perhaps a little bit older, and they decided, instead of going with Afrobeat, they decided to go on 90s pop rock. So let's see how that goes. So as you can see, this one is a little bit more classic, and the lyrics was an original product from my parents. Between the lines of the past. Let's see this one over here. This one is a little bit more 90s rock style that you would use for a sitcom or maybe for a rom-com. So that is totally different. So my recommendation here is that while using Suno, we have to be quite aware of its large community, as I mentioned before. And if we're going to use it with our teenagers, make sure that they are under supervision from the teacher and parents and guardians. Basically because, as you guys can see there, the content can be quite varied. So of course, in this particular case, I usually go and use the global trending. I would go maybe for the ones that are in a language target. As a language educator that I am myself, I would use the ones that are maybe only in English, for example, and maybe make it age appropriate. But of course, if I am, in higher education, I would actually invite them to maybe listen to other creators' music, and maybe open debate about what is going on around the world. So I hope that this idea was something interesting that you can also implement in your classroom. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time during this talk, and I hope to connect with you through LinkedIn. Here is my QR code, and I will be answering your questions soon. Thank you.